I should have taken the old dorm. If someone offered me a room in a brand new dormitory today, I'd turn it down without thinking. That probably sounds ridiculous. Most people would jump at the chance to live somewhere clean, modern, comfortable. I did too, back then. I honestly believed I was the luckiest freshman on campus. When I got accepted into university, I was assigned a room in a brand new residence hall that had opened earlier that same year. Nobody seemed to know why it had been built so quickly. Some people said it was part of a government project to expand the campus. Others claimed the university had received a huge grant. Honestly, compared to the old dormitories, this place looked like paradise. Most students were stuck in aging Soviet-era buildings. Long, freezing hallways, peeling paint, rusted pipes, communal showers that barely worked, rooms that looked like they hadn't been renovated since the late 80s. Our dorm was the exact opposite. Fresh paint, brand new furniture, a private bathroom, a small kitchen. Even the smell of fresh wood still lingered in the hallways. My classmates couldn't hide how jealous they were. Every time someone visited, they'd look around and ask the same question. How the hell did you get this place? I never had an answer. I lived on the 6th floor with 3 other freshmen, Anton, Vlad, Grisha. We barely knew each other at first. Within weeks, we were eating together, studying together, gaming until 3 in the morning, and throwing small parties whenever nobody important was around. Life settled into a comfortable routine. My scholarship wasn't much. My parents helped whenever they could. I also found freelance work editing product photos for online stores. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough. Looking back now, those first few months almost don't feel real. It's like the building wanted us to believe everything was perfect. Until November. One evening, Anton noticed a thin crack stretching across one of the kitchen walls. It wasn't very big, just a thin line in the plaster. We laughed. Someone joked that the construction company had probably stolen half the concrete during construction. Everyone laughed. Nobody thought about it again. 2 weeks later, another crack appeared. This time in Vlad and Grisha's room. Then the girls living next door. The ones who occasionally bribed us with homemade borscht and cutlets whenever they needed help moving furniture. Started complaining too. Chunks of plaster had fallen from their ceiling. Their showers stopped working overnight. Then more students started noticing strange problems. Doors stopped closing properly. Floor tiles began cracking. Entire sections of the hallway floor slowly started sinking. Every week, the building looked just a little older, just a little more worn, as if years were passing inside it. While only days passed outside, students complained again and again. Eventually, university officials showed up with engineers and administrators. They inspected every floor, took notes, measured cracks, whispered among themselves. Then they left. Nothing changed. There simply wasn't anywhere else to move hundreds of students. So everyone stayed. Honestly, none of us cared that much. We had heat, a roof over our heads, internet, food for broke college students. That was more than enough. But something else changed without anyone talking about it. More and more students started going home every weekend. Whenever there was a holiday, the building emptied. Looking back, maybe everyone felt it. Maybe nobody wanted to admit it. Eventually, there came one weekend when I found myself completely alone. Anton had gone home, so had Vlad. Grisha left that afternoon. I wasn't seeing anyone back then. So I planned the perfect lazy weekend. Video games, pizza, energy drinks, no responsibilities. I thought it was going to be one of the best weekends of the semester. Instead, it became the last night I'd ever spend inside that dorm. Outside, the first real snowfall of the winter had covered the campus, making everything beyond my window feel strangely quiet. Around 1 in the morning, the power went out. The lights in my room died instantly. So did the hallway. Then, the entire floor. It wasn't the first time. Power outages had become common in the new dorm, and usually the fix was simple. Walk to the electrical panel, flip a few breakers, complain about the wiring, and eventually, everything came back on. I grabbed my phone, switched on the flashlight, and stepped into the hallway. The darkness felt heavier than usual. The emergency lights weren't working. Normally, when the power failed, people would open their doors almost immediately. Someone would already be standing at the breaker panel. Someone else would be complaining about the university cutting corners during construction. This time, nothing. No voices, no footsteps, no doors opening, just silence. I figured everyone had gone home for the weekend. The electrical panel was at the end of the hallway. I opened it and started flipping breakers, one after another. Nothing. I tried again, still nothing. After several minutes, I finally admitted to myself that I had no idea what I was doing. I decided to wake one of my neighbors. I knocked on the closest door. No answer. The next room. Nothing. Then another. Still nothing. I walked farther down the hallway, knocking on every door I passed. No one answered. By the time I reached the end of the corridor, I realized I had checked every room on the floor. I was completely alone. The only door left belonged to a small maintenance closet where the janitors kept their buckets, mops, and plumbing equipment. Beyond it, only the elevator. Frustrated, I hit the metal door with the side of my fist. The sound rang through the corridor. Then something knocked back. I froze. For a second, I convinced myself I'd imagined it. Maybe I was exhausted. Maybe I'd heard the pipe settling. Then it happened again. There was no mistake this time. Something inside that room had answered me. The knocks came slowly, perfectly spaced apart, almost as if whatever was inside wanted me to know it had heard me. Knock, knock. Each hit was stronger than the last. The door started shaking. Then, the handle moved. Once, twice, then, violently. Someone or something was trying to open it from the inside. I instinctively stepped backward. The entire door slammed against its frame. Again and again. The metal groaned under the impacts. Then I heard something scraping across it. It wasn't fingernails. It wasn't a tool. It sounded like something incredibly heavy dragging razor-sharp claws across solid steel. Every instinct I had told me to run. So I did. I sprinted down the hallway without looking back. I barely remember reaching my suite. I slammed the door shut behind me, locked it, then rushed into my bedroom and locked that door too. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the key. I kept trying to come up with a logical explanation. Maybe someone had been trapped inside. Maybe a maintenance worker? Maybe the pipes had burst. Anything. anything except what my gut was telling me. Then I heard it. A loud crack echoed through the corridor. Not the sound of a door being kicked open, the sound of wood being torn apart, like something had ripped it straight off its hinges. The hallway fell silent again. Not a single sound. No footsteps. No breathing. Nothing. Then 3 slow knocks landed on the door to our suite. I didn't move. I barely breathed. Those 3 knocks didn't sound impatient. They sounded deliberate. Like whoever or whatever was standing outside already knew I was inside. The knocks never came again. That somehow made it worse. I looked around my room, desperately trying to think of a way out if the door gave in. There wasn't one. Then my eyes landed on the window. 6th floor, a long way down. I unlocked it and pushed it open. Freezing air flooded the room instantly. I climbed onto the windowsill and looked down. The ground was terrifyingly far away. Jumping would almost certainly kill me. But if something came through that door, I wasn't sure dying on impact would be the worst option. Maybe I could grab the concrete ledge below. Maybe. It wasn't much of a plan. It was all I had. Then another knock. Not loud. Not violent. Almost polite. I held my breath. No, every muscle in my body locked up. I couldn't hear footsteps. I couldn't hear movement. But for some reason, I was absolutely convinced something was standing only a few feet away from me, waiting. Seconds stretched into minutes. The silence became unbearable. Then I heard it. Slow, wet, raspy breath. I still can't explain that part. The suite door was in another room. There was no way I should have been able to hear breathing through 2 closed doors. But I did. Slow, heavy, like enormous lungs struggling to pull in air. I squeezed my eyes shut. I kept telling myself I was imagining it. That fear was playing tricks on me. Then the breathing stopped. A few more seconds passed. Another knock echoed through the hallway. But this time, it wasn't my door. The thing had moved. I heard another knock farther down the corridor, then another. It was going from room to room, knocking, waiting, moving on, knocking again. Like it was searching for someone willing to answer. I stayed on that windowsill for the rest of the night. Every minute felt like an hour. My legs went numb. The freezing wind soaked through my clothes. At one point, I climbed back inside just long enough to grab my cigarettes from the couch. My hands shook so badly, I could barely light one. I didn't sleep, not even for a second. Eventually, the sky outside began turning gray. Morning. For the first time in hours, I felt like I might actually survive. About 30 minutes later, I heard keys rattling outside. Then the front door opened. Anton walked in carrying 2 heavy grocery bags his parents had packed for him. He stopped the second he saw me. "You look like hell," he said. I probably did. I was freezing, exhausted, still sitting beside the open window. What happened? Hesitating. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked past him into the hallway. Anton followed. The moment we stepped outside, we both stopped. The hallway didn't look the way we'd left it the day before. It looked years older. Floor tiles had shattered across the corridor. Some were completely missing. Large sections of plaster had fallen from the walls, exposing bare brick underneath. The air smelled like burned wiring. The electrical panel was blackened around the edges, like something inside had caught fire. I finally told Anton everything. The blackout, the empty hallway, the knocking, the maintenance closet, the thing trying to get out. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he sighed. "You were alone all night," he said. "You were scared. You probably imagined most of it." I didn't argue. Instead, I pointed toward the end of the hallway. The maintenance closet. Its door was gone, not broken. Gone, or rather, what was left of it was scattered across the floor. The thick wooden door had been ripped into jagged pieces, as if something unimaginably strong had torn it apart with its bare hands. Anton didn't say another word. Together, we slowly walked toward the open doorway. Neither of us wanted to be the first to look inside, but curiosity won. We stepped closer. The air changed almost immediately. It felt colder, damp. The room smelled nothing like it should have. Instead of cleaning chemicals and old mop water, it carried the heavy scent of wet concrete, mold, and something that reminded me of an abandoned basement that had been sealed for decades. The pipes lining the walls looked wrong. They were practically brand new just days before. Now, they were coated in thick rust. Some of them were covered in a dark, sticky film neither of us wanted to touch. The concrete walls looked older too, cracked, discolored, as if decades had passed overnight. Then Anton quietly said, "What the hell is that?" I followed his gaze. In the back wall of the closet was a massive hole. It hadn't been there before. The broken concrete opened directly into the elevator shaft. A black void disappeared into the darkness below. We both stood there without saying a word. The darkness inside that shaft felt wrong. Like, it wasn't simply the absence of light. It felt deep enough to swallow the entire building. Then I looked down. I wish I hadn't. Scattered across the floor was what looked like a pile of shredded clothing covered in blood. For a brief moment, my brain refused to understand what I was seeing. Then I noticed the bones, white fragments, pieces far too large to belong to an animal. My stomach dropped. There was part of a human jaw lying among them. The tongue was still attached. I don't remember screaming, but Anton later told me we both did. We ran. Neither of us looked back. Every second spent waiting for the elevator felt unbearable. I couldn't stop staring into the narrow gap above the elevator doors. I kept expecting something to crawl out of the darkness, or worse, to already be standing behind us. The dorm supervisor listened to our story with the same expression people usually have when they're trying very hard not to laugh. He assumed we were hung over, or trying to cover up some kind of fight. He demanded that we take him upstairs and show him. Neither of us moved. There wasn't a chance in hell we were going back into that hallway. Not until someone else came with us. A few minutes later, campus security arrived. Then, the police. Within an hour, everyone still living in the dorm had been ordered outside. Nobody was allowed back in. The entire building was surrounded by police tape. Nobody told us anything. We spent hours answering questions. The officers asked us the same things over and over. What time had the power gone out? What exactly had we heard? Had we seen anyone? Had anyone else been on the floor? Eventually, one of them leaned across the table and said something I'll never forget. If you value your place at this university, don't tell anyone what you think you saw. That wasn't a suggestion. It sounded like a warning. A few days later, rumors started spreading anyway. The remains belonged to a third-year student who lived one floor below us, just like me. He'd stayed in the dorm that weekend. Just like me, he'd been alone. The police never said what happened to him. They didn't have to. Everyone on campus came to the same conclusion. He'd opened the door. The dorm stayed sealed for weeks. When we were finally allowed back inside to collect our belongings, we weren't alone. Armed officers stood at every entrance. No one was allowed to wander off. No one was allowed to ask questions. As I carried the last box of my things toward the exit, I noticed something that still bothers me to this day. From the outside, the building still looked brand new. Fresh paint, clean windows, perfect. But inside, it looked abandoned, like it had been rotting for decades. Nobody ever explained that. Nobody ever explained the hole in the maintenance closet, or where it led. After that, the rumors became impossible to separate from reality. Some people claimed investigators found a massive nest of electrical cables deep beneath the basement. Others swore there were hidden maintenance tunnels connecting the dorm to the city's old sewer system. Some talked about feral animals. Others whispered about creatures that had supposedly lived beneath the city long before the university was built. Ghosts or the tunnel dwellers, things that should have stayed underground. I don't know what was really down there, and I don't want to know. Anton and I moved into a tiny one-bedroom apartment not far from campus. It's old. The plumbing rattles, the walls are paper thin, but we've never complained because old buildings make sense. You know what to expect from them? There's only one new building anywhere near our apartment, an office complex that opened about 6 months ago. A few nights ago, one of my neighbors mentioned they've been having electrical problems. I hope that's all it is.